Okay, Ji, recording has started. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to Practical Baat. Today we have a very special guest with us, and he is Dr. Omer Farooq Saeed. Now, Omer Farooq Saeed is a physician, MBBS, and PhD scholar in Islamic thought and civilization at the University of Management and Technology, Lahore. He was the nominee as Young Scientist of the Year 2021 for the Michelson's Philanthropies Award in Immunology and Bioinnovation, USA. He's also the recipient and the winner of Eppendorf Prize of Neurobiology in 2023, which is around $25,000. Yes. And he's also the author of the Amazon best-selling book called Philosophical and Scientific Analysis of Richard Dawkins' God Delusion, and another book called The Blessings of God, which is the philosophical and scientific analysis of Harris Sultan's Curse of God. As you can see, Mr. Farooq is a very intellectual and well versed and personality. And I just told you maybe 20% of his achievements, right? So today we are going to be having a podcast with him around his book called Scientific Miracles in the Sunnah. Now, when I first got this book from him as a gift, I was like, oh, wow, there's scientific miracles in the Sunnah also. Because we as Muslims, we have no doubt and we unanimously agree. And in fact, we take a lot of pride in the fact that, yes, there are so many scientific miracles in the Quran, right? So the Quran has all sorts of miracles, scientific, linguistic, mathematical, you name it, that miracle exists in the Quran. We all agree there is a lot of data out there, documentation, debates. We are very well versed about it and we believe everything. But when it comes to the Sunnah, we don't have this kind of confidence and we don't even know that. In fact, we are way like in the previous steps, we are still at the point where we're always thinking, oh, is this hadith sahi, is this hadith authentic, is this weak? Abhi hum usme hi we are so caught up कि we haven't reached the point to realize that there is actually so much material in the sunnah, and the miracles, scientific miracles that are in the sunnah are actually too many and too detailed and so useful for our daily lives that if we use it, our own lives will improve significantly and we are not aware of it. So when I saw this book, I read this book, it opened my perspective, it opened my eyes, it opened my perspective to the fact that okay, my religion is way more than I thought, way more than I was proud of, and there are tons of more things to be proud of it. And I hope the same will happen with all of you today with Mr. Farooq. So now I will not with Mr. Umar Farooq. So now I don't want to spend more time on this. Now we will just have him with us. And Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Umar Farooq, for coming here with
You're
us.
welcome. Thank you so
And thank
much.
you for this amazing book.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I
It's my
hope after
pleasure.
this, a lot of people read it, and become enlightened like you enlightened me. So thank you very much. So
My,
now I will go to our first question, which
hmm
popped up in my mind while I was reading this book. In fact, when you actually gave me this book, is that
Exactly.
why are we Muslims so unaware of it? Why don't we know about this? Like, why is this knowledge that there are so many miracles in the Sunnah? Why don't we know about it? We know about the Quran, but why don't we know
Exactly.
about this?
Exactly. First of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and thank you for having me. And it is a very important question to start with. Basically, why are we so oblivious about it? We have to understand one thing, that our religious upbringing, no matter where you belong to, even if you are from the eastern side of the world or the western side of the world, the basic upbringing that we have is just teaching the children how to practice religion, not to understand the religion. Understanding is altogether a different concept, and practicing is very different. For practice, of course, you just need to learn some gestures, some duas, and some verses of the Quran, and that's it. That's it. But on the other hand, if you want to understand religion, it takes far more than this a practice. I'm not undermining practice. Of course, it's very important. It's the obligation, it's the pillar of Islam to practice religion. But why we don't know about such things is because we don't develop that particular understanding of religions right from the start of our lives. And this is where I think the role of parenting, this is where the role of schools, especially because every kid, of course, they go to school. And when they don't of course, we also read in Pakistan, at least we have Islamic studies as a compulsory subject right from the beginning. And I think up till masters, if I'm not wrong. So in every class, it is a compulsory subject, but we are not really taught these things because they are somewhere, I wouldn't say taboo, but they are somewhere not clearly understood by people because of the thing that I already mentioned, that it doesn't really matter to people because they those just want to practice religion. Understanding, oh no, understanding is too complicated. Why? So why would we even try to do that? Because it's just about earning some good deeds, earning some rewards for practicing the religion, and that's it. Just go and get the paradise, nothing else. Who cares about ruling the world? Who cares about the reviving the golden age? Who cares about it? So that is the reason why. Yeah, I guess your mic is muted, or I cannot hear.
Sorry, I muted myself. So I'm
Okay,
saying, so you're saying it's basically because we have focused more on practicing Islam and not on
absolutely,
understanding Islam, even as a
absolutely.
society. But they cannot, like, even like you said, even in my university, I was in LUMS,
Mhm.
we had to take Islamic studies. It was part of it. And,
Exactly,
in O levels,
exactly.
everywhere we had to take it. So they are
Mhm.
trying to give us knowledge, but they don't give us this kind of knowledge. That knowledge is more abstract, not applicable in daily life. So
Mhm.
I don't know why is that. Like I don't know if that is the case in other countries like in Dubai or Saudi Arab, but in
Mhm.
Pakistan, this looks like a very good reason because I
Mhm.
think the hadiths that I studied in your book, they are
Mhm.
more detailed. ठीक है, they are very detailed. The miracles that you mentioned, ठीक है, they are
Mhm.
very क्या कहते हैं, clear, like very
Mhm.
clear. They're very beneficial and
Mhm.
they're way more ahead of time even today. कुछ ऐसी भी हैं मतलब even science is reaching that point, right? And the prophet just explained it in one small simple word that I will discuss with you as well. And
Absolutely.
I was dumbfounded. I was like, ये तो this is the part of knowledge that should be given to us, even in our educational systems. You're very right. So okay.
Basically, that's the reason why I wrote the book. That's the reason why I wrote the
Yeah.
book. Because it
Hmm.
need I thought there was a need to write it. That is why. Otherwise I
Hmm.
wouldn't have written
Hmm. Thank you very much. I think you filled a very important gap, and I think yeah, school's curriculum mein, it should be added. At least in Pakistan, it should be added. So we,
it. Hope so. Hope so.
when we listen to Dr. Zakir Naik and how he destroys everybody, critics of Islam by bringing in science and
That's true.
proving to them through their own lens through science that yes, look, Quran is logical. There are
Bilkul.
miracles in the Quran, and they cannot reject it. This.
Hmm.
This puts confidence in Muslims, like who are
Exactly.
people like me who are weak in knowledge, who don't know. Catch when we hear things like that, we're like, oh, we get more confident in our Quran, and we are more likely
That's
to
true.
follow it, and even get to know it more. Same thing
Absolutely.
with hadith, but we don't do it. हम तो बल्कि अभी से में ही फंसे हुए हैं कि ये सही है कि वीक है, फॉलो करें या ना करें.
Oh
तो
yes, yes, yes.
will give us so
That's
much
more catchy.
confidence in us as well.
We are after catchy things. This is more catchy. Is it authentic? Is it really authentic chain of narration? It is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but what is
Yes.
catchy for you, and what is more catchy for me as a
Hmm.
person? That is a different perspective. That is the reason why I wrote the book. And even though
Hmm.
I have, if you had, of course you have read the book, I have
Hmm.
quoted some hadiths which are weak, but I mentioned that although they
Hmm.
are weak, but somewhere they had some sort of knowledge which I had to put in
Hmm.
that book. So that is the
Because
that is why.
a weak hadith doesn't mean you reject it. It's just that we
No, no,
cannot
no.
find out,
Only
right, कि whether it is sahi or
only
not. That's why we
only the
call it weak.
only the fabricated hadith, which is called mozu in Arabic, that is
Hmm.
not to be accepted by in any case because it is narrated by a liar. The chain of
Okay,
narration,
okay.
there is a
Mawzu.
liar somewhere.
Hmm.
Yes, but in a zaif hadith, in a weak hadith, there is no lying. It is just
Hmm.
that somewhere if the narrator must have missed the words or mixed the words, or
Hmm.
maybe he
Hmm.
was a little weak in his memorizing. That is the
Hmm.
only case why the hadith becomes
Yeah.
weak. Otherwise, yeah, of course, it's a
This
big
is
difference.
also
It's not.
misconception because we think oh zaif hadith hai, so we don't have to follow it
No,
at
no, no,
all.
no,
But
no.
no,
That is
we
different.
still have to.
Zaif
We still
Hadith,
have.
no, Zaif Hadith is not a false or a lie.
Hmm.
Now, the lie is only a
Yes.
Mozu Hadith, which has a liar in the chain of narration.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Thank you very much for clarifying this. It's a very important that needed to be uh, clarified. Now,
Hmm.
moving on to my first question about one of the miracles that you have mentioned in this book, right?
Hmm.
So it is one of the first miracles that you mentioned is of olive oil. Now I
Hmm.
remember from my childhood from my grandmother, कि भाई
Hmm.
olive oil is sunnah, right? तो अब बस आई नो कि इट्स सुन्ना, व्हाट इज अबाउट इट, व्हाट नॉट, वो नहीं हमें पता था। बस ये जैसे आपने कहा भाई
Exactly.
पी लो सुन्नत है, खाने में
Absolutely.
डाल लो सुन्नत है, बस। तो आफ्टर यू मेंशन दिस हदीस which I would like to read here in two ways that it was there.
Hmm.
It made things way more clear to me, and it made me want to use olive oil way more. मैंने फौरन जाके olive oil खरीदा, मैंने कहा अब मैं और इसको ज़्यादा ज़्यादा यूज़ करूंगी, because
That's
now
very
it's
good.
also
Very good.
a good deed.
I'm
Like
glad.
जैसे आपने कहा, I want to get more sawab, so I started doing it.
I'm
So
glad.
there is hadith, it says, consume olive oil and apply it as lotion, for it is blessed. And then in another
Absolutely.
version, it says, consume olive oil and apply it as lotion, for it comes from a blessed tree,
Hmm.
right? And these are mentioned in Ibn Majah, At-Tirmizi. And
Hmm.
then I also found out from your book that in the Quran, seven times olive oil is mentioned, right? And one
Exactly.
surah, a lot of people also know by heart, where it says, "Wattini was Allah swears by the fig and by the olive.
You're correct.
So it's mentioned in the Quran. It means it's a sign of Allah. It's sign itself of Allah, and then it's also mentioned in the
Absolutely.
Hadith detail, as always. Prophet told us detail. Okay, use it as a lotion also. I didn't know
Absolutely.
this. Okay, matlab even using it on your body is is part of Hadith. Is part of Sunnah. It's a good deed if you do it. I just
That's
thought, okay.
right.
So now, please tell us, how is it a miracle, scientific miracle?
Okay, first of all, we have to understand that the thing about olive. The olive becomes the oil afterwards. In the beginning, it is just the olive. Is the olive
Hmm.
is a fruit comes from the olive tree, and it is an evergreen tree, by the way, and it has an age of around 1,000 years. And
Okay.
that is very interesting to know that we have to understand one thing before discussing any scientific miracle in the Sunnah. Why we even need to discuss it? I have to just explain it briefly, and then I will come to
Mhm.
the question.
Sure.
First of all, we have to understand that Sunnah implementing and implementing the Sunnah in your life, practicing the Sunnah in your life, it will surely bring you reward. There is no doubt about it. But on the other hand, is it even vaguely possible that it will only bring you the reward for the hereafter and nothing in the world and no benefit in the world? It is not possible. Practicing each and every sunnah must be beneficial in this world as well. And this is what
Definitely.
happened in the lives of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ as well, that
Mhm.
whenever they would implement a particular sunnah in their lives, it benefited them in this world too. So
Mhm.
that is an article of faith in Islam as well, that it is bound to benefit you in both the worlds, not just the hereafter. When I talk about hereafter, this should not be confused. This particular notion should not be confused with only reward. Reward is one part. I do understand it is very
Yeah.
important for people, and why not? But on the other
Mhm.
hand, it has to be understood that it has a very big impact in this world as well. So when we come
Mhm.
to understand, it is very easy to understand. Now we can move forward. Now we are able to move forward and discuss what exactly some of the things that are mentioned in the Sunnah or mentioned in Ahadith. They might turn out to be scientifically so interesting. And I would say that why I have used the word miracle is that because we are now discussing all these things because of the advancement of science. Otherwise, maybe 100 years back, we wouldn't have been discussing these things.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that is why.
because we couldn't reach this point. Like I said, some of
Mm,
these are way ahead of time, even today,
exactly.
that we cannot make sense of them.
It was 1450 years ago, ahead of its
Hmm.
time, way ahead of its
Yes.
time. So that is
Yes.
the reason why, if something is of that much of a significance, we tend to call it in worldly manners a miracle. So now
Hmm.
discussing, coming to the point of olive. Olive basically is a fruit. We know the taste is a little bitter.
Hmm.
There are some types, of course. There is green olive, there is black olive, but on the other hand, all olives. Different soils have different sort of taste. I do agree, but there is one thing for sure: all of us have tasted the olives on a pizza. We all know that.
Yes.
But on the
Yes.
other hand, we don't know. We don't really know what exactly is going inside us. We don't
Hmm.
really are interested in knowing, because if the taste is good, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter to people. Now coming to the point that the word olive, or the word of this fruit olive, is mentioned many times in a hadith, especially in the the Quran as well, as is mentioned 7 times. And the significance of something is often described by how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word
Yes. Okay.
in his holy book.
Hmm.
So now we
Hmm.
understand that it is quite significant. Now coming to the scientific aspects of olive,
Hmm.
it is very significant. It is well understood and should be understood that it is very important for us to know what exactly it is. Now,
Hmm.
what it brings us scientifically, many people were using olives even before the advent of Islam or the advent of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Islam was, of course, started with the Adam, peace be upon him. But even before the last Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they were using it, but they didn't. They also did have some sort of understanding that it is beneficial. But the
Hmm.
thing that is mentioned in the hadith, that tells us that it is blessed by something which is blessed for human beings. It
Hmm.
has much more significance than just eating and having a good taste or having good health by it. We come to know now, through scientific means, that olive is a fruit that has very low percentage of fatty acids, and also,
Hmm.
most importantly, all the fats are unsaturated. Now we have to understand that whatever the plaque that goes inside of the, whatever builds up the plaque in the body, by plaque I mean that starchy kind of substance that sticks up in the veins and that
Hmm.
causes vasoconstriction. Basically, that
Hmm.
is called plaque. And what causes
Okay.
that?
It is
Saturated
something
fats. Saturated
which
fats cause
causes
that.
like a heart attack
And
later because the veins were constricted. Is that what it is?
absolutely. It can be
Oh.
anywhere. It can very well be anywhere in the
Hmm.
body, but when it piles up in the heart, it causes
Hmm.
vasoconstriction.
Okay.
All over the body, but in heart, it causes coronary artery diseases, which
Okay.
causes tight stenosis.
Hmm.
It can be mild stenosis, but stenosis is basically thickening and narrowing of arteries. This is what
Okay.
stenosis
Okay.
is. So this
Okay.
saturated fat, that plaque, that causes stenosis, and that basically is a result of saturated fats going and piling up in the veins of a person.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
what is the basic, but can be the remedy of this? Very important
Hmm.
question, health wise very important. Now, the unsaturated fats, or a
Hmm.
substance which is low in fatty acids, that has the
Hmm.
ability to wash it off. And this is
Hmm.
what exactly an olive can do to you. An olive
Acha.
can do that to you because it is rich in both the qualities that I mentioned. Plus, coming to this
Hmm.
point, that it is crucial, it is life saving, it is not something very formal. If it had a formal benefit, I wouldn't have even mentioned it. It is life saving
Hmm.
because when something
Okay.
is going off in the heart and it is blocking its the
Yes.
passage of blood, it can cause possible death,
Yes.
introducing, of course, after the myocardial infarction. So that is basically a life-saving thing. If it is used in, of course, quantities
Hmm.
specified by the practitioners, there must be
Hmm.
some experts that can
Hmm.
prescribe you the quantities of in which it has to be taken, and then, of
Hmm.
course, it will heal up
So I
the
so I
point
have a
which I
question.
was mentioning.
So
Now,
I
coming
have
to the other point.
I have a
Sure, sure,
question before we
sure,
move
sure,
on. So you said कि इसके अंदर unsaturated fats हैं in
sure, sure.
olive oil, right? So you said if the
जी, जी,
artery is
जी.
already, let's say the veins are already filled with saturated fats and they're already narrowed and becoming constricted. So if we
Mhm.
take it, it can even wash away that. That can also happen. I just want to clarify
Absolutely.
that.
That is what that what happens basically
Achha.
through some of the fruits that includes dates as well, and something which
Mm-hmm.
is rich in unsaturated fats plus low fatty acid
Okay.
count, and some of the amino acids, including these vitamins. Vitamin is an acronym, sort of a name is it's called vital amines. And what are these
Mm-hmm.
vital amines called? Vitamins, they are amino acids basically that are
Okay.
essential for the functioning for our
Okay.
bodies.
Okay. Very
And
interesting and very very interesting.
have many
Mm-hmm.
important
Hmm.
these have many important aspects, including those fatty
Hmm.
acids and unsaturated fats, which can, if something is causing trouble in the body, the same the same earth that we come from will produce
Hmm.
something that will heal that particular thing as well. Nothing will come
Hmm.
from the skies. It can come. I'm not saying it can't come, but the thing
Yeah.
that will happen is something out of the soil will come to heal you. No,
Hmm.
we people are very interested in supernatural things happening to us. It can happen, but I'm not
Hmm.
saying when the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you that in your homes, you just go to
Hmm.
a departmental store and you can get it. So why don't you
Hmm.
do it? So it is very important so that it can wash away it off as well. Some similar thing happens with the citric acid fruits as well. They also have the ability to wash it off. It's not that
Okay.
that olive is
Thank
alone
you
in
for
that.
this
Olive
very
is far
important
more richer
information.
and far more.
Hmm.
Yes, olive is very important and far more effective in that. Also, coming to the oil part now, this was only regarding olive as a whole, as a fruit. The oil part, which also mentioned in the hadith, that it is also can be used as something to massage, meaning the oil is massaged. Basically, the fruit cannot be massaged. So it is to be applied on the body at the point where you feel particular feeling of a sense of pain or discomfort. That is osteoarthritis or osteoporosis. Osteoarthritis and osteoporosis generally happen in the knees, where you feel particular place. If a massage is given by olive oil, what happens is basically the friction between the two cartilages inside the knee of a person, they start going against each other, and that basically causes the pain to happen, because gradually that friction increases and the bone becomes very unspecified in nature, because it was before it is completely smooth, and that smooth nature of the bone allows us to move freely. But then, because of the friction, it becomes a little coarse. I should say coarse is the real correct word. And then it starts paining the person. But when you apply that, you give a massage through the oil, and with the oil, of course, it becomes that the smoothness start returning to the bone, which basically also lowers down the pain factor and also allows you to move freely. It will give you both the benefits, not just it will lower down the pain, it will also give the smoothness to the knees and the joint of the knee. I'm not saying that it will heal it completely. Once something is burnt, is burnt. Something is burnt, the bone part is burnt. But I'm not saying it will regrow the bone. I'm saying that it will bring you the smoothness to it and agility to move. So that is also very important, both the scientific points regarding the fruit and the.
Yeah. And okay, sorry, signal is being a bit distorted. So I think generally olive oil is also very useful for like when you put it on your skin, and it makes it very, you can say, smooth and soft, and it doesn't make it age if you regularly use olive oil. So
Mhm.
your skin will also, I think, not age. This is my own assumption based on, like, I've met a lot of people who use it, and they have such young skins. So I think this is also one of the secrets of it. So amazing, amazing. So acha,
Very important for the skin as well. You have to, again, this is very important. Like, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran that there is shifa in honey. But would a diabetic patient would take honey as well? Should he also take the honey? Of course, he will not take it. So the guidance of a practitioner or physician or an expert is very important, especially someone who knows science, especially someone who knows science. And for that, I would say that basically, I think there is an error or something.
there's some lag in internet. I think it's from your side. Okay, now we are back. So Mr. Omar Farooq, can you tell us if I want to use olive oil for myself, if I have some pain in my body anywhere, even muscle pain or
Mhm,
anything,
mhm.
which olive oil should I use? Like, how should I know? How would I know? Is it should be extra virgin? Yeah, any olive oil I can use? What is the criteria?
Isme, the thing is that I was explaining that why is it important to consult an expert or a physician in order to use such things. As I was explaining that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions in the Quran that there is shifa in honey.
Mm-hmm.
So would that mean a diabetic person should also use honey? No, of course he cannot use it. Although
Mm-hmm.
Allah has mentioned in the Quran that there is shifa in it, but a diabetic person should not use it because he has to use his mind as well. Allah has also given, if He has said it's shifa in honey, He has also told that He has also given you a mind to work to use it. So that is why it's very important to follow whatever the physician or an expert would tell you. So the usage of these things is also very important to be followed in the guidance of experts. Like you asked the question that how to use olive oil. Basically, the extra virgin olive oil is for consumption, for the oral consumption, extra virgin. The other olive oil, which is called the olive pomace oil as well, or the simple cooking oil, or whatever you can say, it can be used in both the ways. That is the one which is applied on the skin. For skin, beautifying the skin, there is a different use to mix the olive oil up in aloe vera or such substances. It will give a very good shine to the skin. It will take away the bacterial growth from the skin because of both are antiseptic. So it will give a lots of good to the skin in order to use it in that manner. Also, for pain or pain relief purposes, the pure form of olive oil, which is the olive pomace oil, that is to be used directly on the area of the affected area, and of course a little bit of massage from that oil can give a lots of relief on that particular area.
Okay, so extra virgin is only for consumption, it's not
Oral
for.
consumption, and especially it's not to be cooked as well. It has to be taken raw in order to
Mhm.
get the components from it, all the vitamins in the real and true form for it. Other oil, other times the olive form is oil that is for cooking purpose. It can be cooked, but the
Okay.
extra virgin should not be cooked. It should be taken orally and raw. And maybe some people are very like also used it on salads, and salad spreads, very
Yes,
famous
yes,
use.
yes. Yes, yes. And it's also actually very good for constipation if you take extra virgin olive oil first thing in the morning, two
Exactly,
tablespoons. So immediately
absolutely.
your digestion also becomes much better.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
relief to relief.
Now moving on to the next hadith that I really liked. That was
Hmm.
something that this hadith is basically something that was completely new to me, and I was like, when Prophet ﷺ said this, how did the people make sense of it, right? And I was
Hmm.
shocked to
Exactly.
see that our science has reached to the point that we can now understand this hadith.
Absolutely.
So this is the hadith, and I will try to read it from the book as well. Uh, just let me open the page. So the Prophet ﷺ said, so I'll read the whole hadith and then the part where we reach there. So it is Abdullah ibn Amr bin al-As narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, "No one should sail except the one who is going to perform Hajj or Umrah, or the one who is going to fight in the cause of Allah. For under the sea there is a fire, and under the fire there is a sea." Now this is very
Yes.
mind boggling.
Exactly.
Under the sea there is a fire, and then under the fire there is a sea. So what did
Exactly.
the Prophet mean by this? So please tell
So
us.
basically, first of all, let me explain it a little. That if you read on the very next page of this particular hadith, I also mentioned that some of the scholars, according to some of the scholars, it is weak. First of
Yes.
all, some of the scholars have the opinion that it is a little weak, but because it has many other sources as well. It's not only in Tirmizi, it's not only in Musnad Ahmad, although it's its own in Musnad Ahmad as well. It is also mentioned in Abu Yala as well. Musnad Abu Yala, very famous book of hadith. Most of the people don't know about it, but because combining all the sources gives the strength, and it becomes Hasan in grade, according to many
Okay.
scholars as well. So
Okay.
if you go by just reading it from one book, then of course there will be something that it can be graded as weak. But if you combine all the sources, it gives the strength to the narration, and it becomes Hasan, which is good enough to be accepted. Now moving ahead, just explaining what the hadith is likely most likely is. Now there can be many interpretations regarding it, but the most understood and the most easiest one to be understood is what I mentioned in the book. They are only it could have only been understood right now, because many
Yes.
of the scholars are also of the opinion that some scholars graded is as weak because they couldn't understand it, because it was too difficult to understand that what exactly
Okay.
it means. So they said maybe the narrator must have made a mistake, so it's weak because it was
Hmm.
difficult to understand. Sometimes this also happens, but now we are able to understand it because of
Hmm.
the scientific advancement and
Hmm.
development. So what basically is, the fire is under the sea. First of all, let's discuss this matter. We
Yes.
are able to now know, of course, we have reached the depths of Mariana Trench as well. This is the farthest we have reached. And we know that there are many volcanic eruptions, many volcanoes that are buried under the sea. So that we couldn't know, because there was no way that someone would have dived inside the sea at that time of the Prophet ﷺ, because there were no oxygen tanks. There was
Mm.
no possibility of a person going under the depth of the sea, maybe a little bit, maybe 10 feet or so, but not nothing more than that. It
Mm.
wasn't even vaguely possible. So
Of
now
course.
that we have many sources, and now even a human being doesn't have to go by himself, we can send the machines underneath.
Mm.
So now we are
Mm.
able to go in depths of sea in order to see what exactly is under it. And we are able to now know that there is a sea of water and a sea of fire as well underneath, which is buried
Okay.
underneath the sea. So that could
Okay.
only have been known through a special something special, somewhat of a special knowledge, and we call it revelation because it was sent down to the Prophet ﷺ. Now
Mm.
we are able to understand this point, but going a little more in depth, studying
Mm.
in depth again, that it even it's on the surface of the earth. Of course, even if the Mariana Trench that we talk about, it's on the surface, but there is
Mhm.
something beneath the surface as well. We know it now that there are four basic components of that thing that is underneath the surface of the earth, and that starts from the outer core, and then the mental, then the inner core, and this
Mm.
is why the crust also meets up the earth. And
Mm.
when we go in depths of the core, just going beneath the outer inner core and the mantle of the earth, there
Mm.
is extreme volcanoes, there is extreme heat, there is extreme fire. And that extreme fire
Okay.
was only discovered very recently after the drilling.
Mm.
And we are, just telling for a fun fact, like a fun fact
Mm.
or a thing, that
Mm.
those drilling equipments were not able to go far beyond underneath the core of the earth because they were getting too heated because of the heat that is inside the earth. That is the reason why
Okay.
we
And this
couldn't
was
even
below
go.
the sea, like sea
Of
ki
course,
depth में
exactly.
जाके
When
नहीं
you
होगा.
go underneath the earth, that couldn't have been happened even in the wildest imagination of people
Hmm.
to know at the time of the Prophet ﷺ what exactly is underneath this earth. That
Hmm.
wasn't possible. So that is something. That is why it qualifies to be a scientific miracle, a
Hmm.
miracle, and is scientifically accurate as well. So we
Hmm.
understand, and also coming to the point that how it can be fire over the earth.
Hmm.
The source of the seas. We have to understand the source. Where is all this water coming from? Do you ever
Hmm.
think about this, where all this water is coming from? We understand that there are origins of rivers. We understand it.
Hmm.
But where exactly is the source of this? We understand the formulation of water is two atoms of hydrogen and one of oxygen that
Yes.
forms water. But where exactly is it coming from? Very
Yeah.
crucial question.
Yeah.
And when
We
you
just
go
think
and
it's there. Allah just put it there.
nothing happens like that. Nothing happens like that.
Yeah.
Allah Subhanahu wa Taala hasn't, He didn't say.
Hmm.
He said that I made the earth, the heavens and the earth in 6 days. This
Hmm.
word 6 days is very crucial. He would
Hmm.
have just said kun in a second and everything would have come into
Hmm.
existence. Why did he
Yes.
stay 6 days? Because he
Hmm.
made some laws. He made some systems which are
Hmm.
which are to be understood and to be followed as well. So that is
Hmm.
why nothing just happens like that. Because Allah
Hmm.
would have made everything happen like that, but it didn't. He didn't do it. So you have to understand nothing just happens like
So
that.
where did this water come from?
Basically, if you see the origin of these seas is basically originating from the sources which are unknown. Now it is
Hmm.
not a big news because we already know they are unknown because we were not even trying to find them out. But now
Hmm.
that we go and find because of the archaeological evidence that we have, and also because we now have the global positioning system, which is GPS, and it can
Hmm.
take you very well to the origins of the rivers and all of the things that are going inside the sea, which are basically the components which are going the rivers ends up in the sea. It gives it the water and many things, of course, the lakes also, and all those things, of course, where they pile up and then goes inside the sea, and it's the water of the sea, which is basically what the water where the water is coming from. When we go and backtrack it, we are able to learn and know that somewhere somewhere it all ends, and somewhere where it ends, we if we go by the origin of the Nile River, very famous river. It spreads around more than 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers. And when you go to see the origin of this particular river, at some point it ends, and at some point it goes to a point where there are marshes where we cannot move. and the source of those marshes is underneath this particular earth, and that is where there might be what the hadith is telling us, something which is unknown as right now, something which is not particularly understood by us right now, but there is a whole world underneath those marshes where we cannot go because there
What
is
what
a
is the
limitation.
what is the marshes? Sorry, I don't know.
Those marshes, muddy sort of earth. The muddy earth is
Okay.
marsh. Muddy
Okay.
earth. यानी इसमें in Urdu we call it dal. Dal.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there is a limitation that no equipment can go there, no equipment can go underneath, no human being can go underneath that. But that is the Nile River and many other like the river, other rivers are most famous are originating from, and that is where the basic origin of that particular sea water also lies. So that is where we have to understand there is sort of a limitation right now as well, but there is something very particular underneath this earth which is mentioned in this hadith as well. And this science, by the way, of marine science and the marine biology is one of the most important and most intriguing subject for me as well. There is an atlas, you can see no, not on this side, on the other side. I have an atlas of oceans that is extremely intriguing atlas for me to read. Why? Because I was first able to understand, of course, even in my school, I read that it is the trees that are giving us the oxygen, but it is not the trees. It is the phytoplanktons inside the sea which is giving us the oxygen.
Acha.
70% of the oxygen that is coming and where we are breathing it in, that is coming from the seas. And in the seas, there is a tree called phytoplankton. That is
In the
basically
sea.
in the seas, inside the
Okay.
sea. Only
There are trees
the
in
other
seas.
30% of the source is on the earth, which is the trees, but they are not the main source. The main source is inside the sea, which is a plant in the sea called the
Very
phytoplankton.
interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
it is. It is. These are the things we need to understand. That it is not just nothing less happens like that. It doesn't. There is a process behind everything. That is the point.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So, under the sea, when the Prophet ﷺ said under the sea there is a fire, so we can say that it was referring to the volcanoes or like the
It is
crust.
referring
Jahan,
basically the crust, mantle, and core. Crust, mantle, and core, inner and
yes,
outer both. That is
yes.
inside. If no one could have even vaguely imagined in their wildest imagination what is underneath the earth. No one could have done that. And
And I also
also
okay.
seas in the depth of the seas as well. And they are volcanoes which we can see.
I also read in your book that you said that the volcanoes that are under the sea are way more big and
Yeah.
strong than the volcanoes that are on top of the earth.
True. Absolutely, absolutely true. That is what I, and it is now those because we have the archaeological evidence for that. That is why we can say that. And if you see about it, go by the Mariana Trench as well, and you see and find up the volcanoes that are present at that particular region, you will be amazed that it is far more. I think 3 times more depth. It has more depth than Mount Everest. Mount Everest is the highest point of Earth on the top of the earth, which is on the surface of the earth. It is more. It has Mount Everest is what 8,800 and
Yeah.
something feet. Mount Everest,
Yes.
and it is the Mariana Trench is far more than that. It is more than 10,000, and this is where we have reached so far, 10,000 feet or so. So that is where, and we also had gone in the to find the Titanic as well, Ocean Gate. You would
Yes,
remember
of
the
course.
Ocean Gate. What happened there?
Yeah.
Some people who are very interested, but it is so dangerous that sometimes such incidents also happen.
Yes, but people have this, curiosity. We want to go and see,
Absolutely.
okay, what is
If
there.
it was safe enough, I would have also gone. But it's not safe.
Yes,
That is the
yes,
point.
yeah.
It's not
They
safe.
say that if you are an adventurous person, you're ready to die for it, then come.
Oh
If you're
yes,
not, then
and they did die.
that's
They
okay.
did die, but they couldn't see the
Yeah,
Titanic. May Allah forgive them. They couldn't see it, but they did die for the
yeah,
adventure, and it is
yeah.
very. The people who have this nag can understand it. Some of the
Mm,
people also make fun that why do you risk your life? No, it's not about risking your life. It's about adventure. It's about exploration. Exploration is in the nature of human beings.
mm. Hmm. Well, may Allah, forgive them, जो थे अंदर बेचारे. So
Exactly.
then there was another interesting thing that was mentioned in this book was that water puts out fire, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
fire से वैसे भी water evaporates, so they are not compatible. But still, we see inside the sea there is volcano erupting, and you also mentioned that they are erupting also. They're not just docile.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So. Like when they erupt, there is fire there, but it's not evaporating the water, and the water is not putting it away. So that is
Basically,
very.
the phenomena of evaporation occurs when the water is transformed into a different form of existence, which is gas. Gaseous form of existence is what can call evaporation. We call it in simple words. But the original form in which water exists is liquid. But it can be in all the three forms. It's very rare. It's an extreme. Water itself is quite of a miracle. It exists in all three forms of matter: solid, as in ice; liquid, the natural form; and then gas. Gas is what we call as evaporated liquid, which is evaporated water. What happens is that when the water reaches the boiling point, which is 100 degrees centigrade, when it reaches that point, now the liquid starts converting into gas, which is evaporated water. Now what happens when it is the volcano is inside the water, which is underneath the sea, that doesn't let the sea underneath to go. So, and in the regions where is the volcanic eruptions, like in case in the northern regions, like Norway, Norwegian region, and Finnish regions in Finland, you go right beside the volcanic eruption in the sea, the water temperature is absolutely normal, 45 degrees or so, 45, 50, at best 60 degrees, right? So it doesn't reach that level of 100 degrees. So that is why it's not evaporated. So that is the reason why
Okay.
it's not happening. And if you would have noticed some videos from that polar regions, when the people who dig up the ice in those regions, underneath that the water is of normal temperature. Only over the surface of the ice, the temperature
Yeah.
is like minus 40, minus
Yeah.
50. But
Yeah.
underneath, the water is quite normal. It is quite normal, 25, 30 degrees at max.
Wow, very 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 interesting. So
Yes.
अब ये तो हमने define कर लिया कि जी there is was fire under the sea, but where is the water under the fire now? Like the Prophet said, there is a sea
That is
under
what
the fire. Have we reached there?
that is
Have humans reached that point?
that is what I was saying. The fire under the water, which is basically uh, is a phenomenon of fire, which can be graded as a metaphor sometimes, because some of the scholars have also said it. But we have to see it scientifically. Can fire be under the water? Fire can very well be under the water. As I said that, now we see from one angle, which is the angle of volcanoes, and we see
Yes.
from the other angle the origin of all this thing. The origin
Yes.
is what of these waters. These waters are coming somewhere, of course, under the influence of the celestial bodies and objects coming from the skies, which were basically which were fire. Whatever comes to the earth, and they are coming each and every day, not each and every day, of course, the 365 days in the year, but they are coming quite well, quite regularly. Those comets and asteroids, they're on fire when they commit. So they can be a metaphor, it can very well be, but it's not very well understood, because, as I said, those marshes and those muddy waters are still yet to be discovered, and they can
Yes.
be anything underneath it, anything underneath it. So we have to understand these things.
But there was
In
something mentioned in the book, I that even below those volcanoes, there is a big, not volcanoes, maybe the crust. There is a big water body that is
Acha,
even bigger than what we have on the surface of Earth.
this particular thing also happens as a result of the phenomena of evaporation, because when there is a liquid, if you have a chilled bottle of cold drink or water, you see a phenomena occurring called condensation. Condensation is
Yes.
what the water is liquid, yet you see outside the bottle, that is condensation. Of course, the change is sudden change in temperature, that causes condensation. So that is what also happening, because it's bound to happen, right? In evaporation, that one and a volcano is causing it to erupt. The thing that is boiling up, it will also cause all condensation underneath it. So when the condensation happens and the fire becomes and goes underneath it, because of the liquid, that is the heavier liquid that goes beneath it, and what is going beneath that, and something which is going up, that is evaporating up and causing condensation. So it goes underneath it. So those both of the phenomena, evaporation, condensation, they go side by side. They occur side by side. So that is where the layer occurs. The layer underneath that Earth's core occur, and that mantle and the core and mantle, they go side by side, and then it creates a layer of water as well, which is condensed water. That is not a permanent layer. That is why I wasn't mentioning it. That's not a permanent layer. It can be,
Okay.
it can go away as well sometimes. So that is why,
Okay.
it's a temporary phenomenon. But if it is mentioned in hadith, and why not? It's very significant. Very significant.
Yeah, very significant. Yes, and very, like I said, way ahead of its time. We are still exploring these things.
Even
You
if
know,
something is temporary in nature, it has to be noted that it's something temporary in nature. It was noticed and mentioned, not noticed, of course, cannot now, no one could have noticed, but it was mentioned. That is quite significant.
Hmm. Mashallah. Okay, now moving on to my next question. That this I think is important for all of us Muslims, Pakistan, outside of Pakistan. Ke, importance of hadith and sunnah,
Hmm.
right? Because we have this mindset ke, oh, if it is sunnah, so just leave it. Oh, you don't, we can do this, but you know it's sunnah, so you don't have to do it, you can leave it. So we have this
Hmm.
mindset, right?
Hmm.
So is what based on all the you can say all this research that you did about the scientific miracles, you know, because of limited time we cannot discuss all the miracles you mentioned. So all these miracles you did, what do you now think is the importance of sunnah in our lives and hadith after doing all this research and
Uh,
studying?
Well, according to me, I would say that this particular topic demands a lot more detail. But in order to
Mm,
just summarize it in a few sentences or a few lines, I would
mm,
say that if you are going to undermine Sunnah, if you're going to
mm,
undermine what the Prophet ﷺ said, then the Quran is also what the Prophet ﷺ said. That is why it became Quran, because he was the
mm.
Prophet. He is the one who said those words, and then it became Quran. The revelation was
Exactly.
sent down to him. Of course, these are the words of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. We believe in it, but it were uttered by the Prophet, and then it became Quran. So
Yes.
it tells us the importance of the words of the Prophet ﷺ if they are narrated, of course,
Mm.
authentically. Because authentication, I'm not undermining it. Authentication of those words is also very important. Some Tom,
And
Dick, and Harry
we have a lot
can
of
come.
systems and we know the authenticity. We cannot use
Any
this as an excuse anymore.
any Tom, Dick, and Harry can come and say this is what the Prophet said. So are we going to accept it? We are not going to accept it.
Yeah.
We will say,
Yeah.
okay, you should have to prove it. This is what the Prophet said. But then
Yes.
it gives rise to one thing which you also mentioned, that sometimes, if you're going to pray, we
Mm.
have prayed first namaz, so
Mm.
we can leave the sunnah. This
Mm.
is what the basic perception that we have in our mind. Okay, we can leave the sunnah,
Yes.
koi baat, no problems. So this is
Mm.
how we treat sunnah basically.
Mm.
Now, not, I'm just,
Yeah.
this was sarcastic.
Mm.
This is why, because when we are given some leniency, we procrastinate. This is what we humans
Mm.
are like. We
Yeah.
become lazy in that. Now the importance the importance of sunnah we understand from the fact
Mm.
that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we have to start from there. Did
Mm.
the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they take sunnah as we are taking the sunnah right now? No, they
Never.
didn't.
They never
They
left it. Mm.
they were the one who would, each and every word of the prophets, they would be dying to implement those in their lives. They were dying to implement that. And
Mm.
what we just say, okay, sunnah to chhod dete, koi baat nahi. It
We
is
want
something.
we want logics. Why should I follow this sunnah? Give me the logic for it. Give me
There,
the rationale behind it. Give me the scientific reason why I should follow the sunnah.
there is a logic behind everything, because as I said, nothing is like aise kuch nahi hota. Nothing
Mm.
happens like this. There is a logic behind everything, but we have to understand the logic. The thing is,
Yeah.
the logic is there. We have to understand it. Also, there are some points in the understanding of the sunnah in which we can vary. Like, for
Mm.
example, I told you, these are some of the examples which I have discussed in my book. The book also explains so many other things, and out of those things, we will you can also mention that where the people can get it from. That is, you
Yes.
can give them. But then
Yeah. Sure.
the point is that these interpretations can lead us. These are
Mm.
all scientific points. There are other
Mm.
points. So there are social points in Sunnah as well, very
Mm.
important for the society. There are things that are
Mm.
important for a family system. There are things that are important for a political system. They are important
Yes.
for economic system. You are an expert in economics as well. These are
Mm.
the things that can lead us to a better world, a better society. And we have to understand that it is not only about you as a person or me as a person. It is somewhere of a collective thing. It's not limited to an individual thing.
Mm.
Sunnah addresses at both levels. Sunnah
Mm.
addresses at the individual level, which is far more discussed in this book, because the scientific things that are mentioned that will go and directly affect a person personally. But if we
Mm.
implement those in the lives of people, there will nothing happen except for good. That I can
Mm.
guarantee, because we
Mhm.
believe in the prophethood of the Prophet Sallallahu. It is bound
Mm.
to, as I started, I'm ending on the same note as well. It will
Mm.
not only benefit us in the hereafter, it is bound to benefit us in this
Yes.
world as well.
In this
If it
world,
doesn't happen,
definitely.
That
Definitely.
is not, that is not, this is an article of faith that we have to believe in it. If you don't believe in this, how
Hmm.
you even believe in the prophet and his prophethood? What is the point then? What even is the
Hmm.
point?
I would like to give a personal example here. Because I was also of the mindset that, okay, I'm doing sunnah, I'm doing good deed, I'm securing rewards, but maybe the dunya mein there's not much benefit in this world. So there, I
Hmm.
found out this hadith about that whenever you wear shoes, you and do this to them, right?
Yes.
So just do it like if this is the shoe, so you do
Hmm.
ulta karke do this and then wear it, right?
बिल्कुल
So
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
I used to do it. So once I
Hmm.
remember I was going for a walk, so and
Hmm.
I had taught these to my maids as well. So
Hmm.
I tell this example to everybody to tell them that sunnah is so important in our life. So I told her, "Okay,
Hmm.
bring my shoes." Right. So they were also trying to
Hmm.
implement this sunnah in their life to, rinse the shoes.
Hmm.
How you say it in English? mein pata nahi how do you say it? So
Hmm.
she brought it, and I said,
Very
"Did you?
good. Whatever.
What's
Yes. Just shake
what's
it
the
off.
word?
Shake it off.
Did you shake them off?" So she
Ah.
said, "Yeah, yeah, I put my hand. I did it. So I said, "Okay, so it has been rinsed. So I will." But then a thought came to my mind. I said, "You know what? I will just do it again for the sake of
Hmm.
sunnah." Right?
Okay. Hmm.
But in
Right.
my
Right.
mind, I was also being kind of proud, thinking, look, even though I don't need to rinse it, but there is no
Hmm.
worldly benefit, but I'm still
Hmm.
doing it because of the sunnah, because I'm such a good Muslim. I had that thought, that I will still do it. So
Exactly.
I put my hand in one of it, and
Okay.
something I felt something. So I was like, "What is it? Is it a string or?" So I put it
Right.
again, and then a big cockroach came out of it. So I had to throw the shoes and run away.
Right.
So
Right.
I
Right.
don't
Right.
know if the maid
Yeah.
lied or she didn't do it properly, but if I had not followed the sunnah, I would have worn the shoe with a very big cockroach in it. And I am
Exactly.
scared
Exactly.
of cockroaches a lot. There are some people who have phobia of cockroaches. Like I
Exactly.
am very much scared of them. So uske
Hmm.
baad I was like, Ya Allah, I am sorry. I know there is so much hikmat in sunnah that I cannot
Exactly.
reach it. Even if I
Exactly.
think this is not benefiting me, it is benefiting me in this world. I will not know how. But that was a
Absolutely.
clear example of how Allah showed me that no, even if you think that you are not benefiting in this world, there is still benefit for you. So mashallah,
There
that was
is.
a nice example.
I sometimes feel that what kind of a belief it might be that we think that it will not benefit us in this world. How is it possible? How is it even
Yeah.
possible to even think that? We are Muslim, we believe in the prophet, and we do not believe that what he told
I
us.
think
What kind of a belief?
it is the most stupid belief, and I think it is very common but most stupid belief to have.
Yes.
कि oh, I'm just following sunnah, but मतलब इसका कोई ऐसा फायदा नहीं. Like for example, when we do namaz, so very common for people to not do sunnahs, they just do farz. So
Hmm.
oh sunnah है ना, we can leave it. So now my perspective has changed a bit. So now I say कि do you think you are a perfect Muslim? You are going to Jannah. You don't need the Sunnah. Matlab, you can do Farz and you are off. Like you're better than the Sahabis. Am I better than Sahabis? I can leave
Yeah,
Sunnah.
yeah. Exactly,
So
exactly.
unless yes, of course, Allah is given a leniency for a reason. If there is a
That's true. That's
situation,
true.
situation, you can
Hmm.
leave it. But any leave kar dena because it's Sunnah. I think it is doing zulm on your own
We
self.
also have to
And
understand that if I say that it will also benefit you in this world, it doesn't mean that we start believing, okay, I'm doing this because it should benefit me in this world. The
yes,
intention must be also understood. The intention
of course.
is it goes both ways. It doesn't
Hmm.
only will benefit me in this world,
Hmm.
it would.
Hmm.
But in the
Hmm.
ways which maybe I couldn't understand, I would not be able to understand. Sometimes we understand things a little after when we have done that. Sometimes the
Hmm.
effects come
Of
up
course.
a little
Yes.
afterwards. But then,
बिल्कुल.
like the hereafter is also afterwards, right? That is why I told
हुँ,
you hereafter. We don't know what's going to
यस,
happen there. But we do
बिल्कुल.
things for the sake of hereafter because it's going to happen afterwards. This is what the belief is.
हुँ,
This is what the
हुँ,
iman is. Also, in this world as well, we have to understand the basic belief or intention should
हुँ,
be implementing the sunnah because the prophet did it. it will
हुँ,
it will fetch me reward. Also, it will fetch me and make me a better person. It will
हुँ,
give me something to something
हुँ,
substantial in this world, any sort of benefit which maybe I can understand it right now, or maybe I wouldn't be able to understand in this particular moment, but maybe afterwards. But it
हुँ,
will, it is bound to
हुँ.
give, it is
The
bound to
most
happen.
important is if you are implementing a sunnah in your life, I
Hmm.
think it is raising your awareness. You're being conscious of your actions,
True,
and
true,
this is what
absolutely.
Islam wants to have aware and a wise human,
That's to make
not
you a better person,
to follow करे सबको. So if
to
you're
make you
even
a better
going in
person.
the toilet, you are conscious that oh I have to go with left foot, And why? Because
Absolutely.
Prophet did it. So isn't this
Absolutely.
something that is connecting us to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even in little things? I think that is very
Sometimes,
beautiful. Like if
sometimes to make you a better person, you give some guidelines to a person to discipline him. If there is no discipline in life, we become so irrational. So I have noticed that if there is no discipline in life, you become irrational as a person. You will start becoming irrational. You will start rejecting things just for the sake of rejecting. This is what it, discipline is important. That is why there are some guidelines given on each and every aspect of life in Islam, because so that
mashallah.
we become disciplined in life, and that discipline basically will lead you to become
Great.
reasonable, and to become to be able to understand the reason and rationality in Islam. Otherwise,
That's
how
right.
would be you would be even able to understand it? So that is why it has to be implemented in your lives, for the sake of discipline, for the sake of reward, for the sake of betterment in this world, and then it will bring you the fruits, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. Okay,
Yes,
now, Sir Umar, before we finish, I want to ask you one last question. Okay,
absolutely.
what is your favorite Sunnah miracle? After all this research, which was the one that impacted you the most? That you were like, wow, yeah,
I would
maybe it had
say
impact on you, or
it's
maybe it amazed you. Which one?
very difficult. It's a difficult question, but then I would say, if I go by seeing from my childhood, this is what I learned. The first miracle I learned in Sunnah was the miracle in embryology, because embryology is one of those things which is a very new knowledge. In our medical as well, we study this KLM, the book by Keith Moore, Embryology on Keith
Yes.
L. Moore, in the second year. But then that time, all credit goes to Dr. Zakir Naik. May Allah preserve him. He introduced all these things in Sunnah and in the Quran, and that also was the first thing. The first love we cannot forget. So that was the first thing. The first
Okay.
thing was a miracle that we understand came to know about in embryology, and in those are the things that are mentioned in embryology. They are quite and so intriguing, and they still are very intriguing for me. That somewhere we have to understand that these things from the unseen are, only we can see other things, all of course is in front
Yes.
of our eyes, but that we can't see, the things from the unseen that fascinates a little more. So that was from the unseen space fascinated a little more. So that is why,
Okay.
that is because all of the things that mentioned in Sunnah, they are equal importance, but the first love is first love. So the
Okay.
embryology, yes.
Embryology hadith. Okay, thank you very much, Umar Farooq, for being with me here. Mashallah, we had a much longer podcast than we had thought, and
Yes,
inshallah, I hope to have another podcast on with you
inshallah.
on a very similar topic, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Inshallah.
but thank you very much for coming and giving us your time, and inshallah, we will continue again
Inshallah.
soon. Okay,
Anytime.
thank you.
Thank you
Assalamu
so much.
alaikum.
Walaikum
End it.
salam.